So this is a tutorial on how to make hair in The Sims 4. But before we do that, we need to set the mood with some nice relaxing music. Skip the ad. Then you need to find an e-girl as a reference. You can usually find e-girls on Instagram, that's their natural habitat. Anyways, we're off to Sims 4 Studio where we will create a 3D mesh. I like to sort the tags before I find the hair just to make it easier for me, but that's not a necessary step. After scrolling for 30 minutes, I think it's about time to find a hair to use as a base. Just look for a hair that is similar to the hair in the reference to just use as a base. After you settle down for a hair, you just open it up and save the file. Now you will have to export the mesh, and in order to open it you will need Blender. After exporting and saving the mesh, you will need to find other meshes that you can grab sections from. So our reference has bangs and space buns, so we will need to find some meshes that include those things.
Here's a picture to remember the reference.
Now we open up the base mesh in Blender. After opening the mesh, don't forget to go into edit mode. Deselect all the layers on the right that you don't need, leaving just the base. Now let's delete everything we don't need. You can select big chunks of verticals by pressing L. Just be careful when selecting because you don't want to select and accidentally delete something you didn't need to. You can delete selections by pressing delete on the keyboard and pressing on verticals. Make sure you delete all the verticals and everything is looking clean. Then open your other mesh. While selecting the buns that I meant to use, I realized that this is actually a way better base than the other hair I had. So I decided to use this as a base instead. To make sure while selecting something that you're clicked on the right layer and also you're in edit mode. Now I just decided to clean up and delete everything that I don't need in the hair, which is the long bits at the end. I'm pressing L in order to select everything. Make sure everything is nice and selected. You can move your view by pressing the right key on the mouse or also holding shift and right clicking. Just make sure you're really careful with this and you take your time because you want to select everything and you want your base to look as clean as possible. Then again, you delete by pressing delete on the keyboard and verticals. After that, you just clean up everything you've missed. Take your time with this step. Another way of selecting verticals is to right click them, or you can select every single vertical by pressing A on the keyboard. Keep in mind that this video is very sped up, so if this is your first time doing this, it will probably take you a hot minute. So just don't be worried and give yourself some time. After I've deleted all the verticals, there was a bald spot on my hair, so I decided to grab it from the initial hair that I thought was going to be the base. So I selected everything by pressing L, and in order to deselect all the bits I didn't need, I pressed C on my keyboard and then clicked with my scroll mouse key all the things that I didn't need in my mesh. After I was happy with the selection, I duplicated the layer by pressing Shift and D and then saving it in a new layer by pressing P. After you created the new layer, you just deselect every single layer, go into object mode, copy it with Ctrl C and then paste it over into the other mesh. I forgot to breathe for a second. Anyways, so after you've pasted your new layer, make sure you select it on the top right and go into edit mode so we can edit it so it fits properly. Select and delete verticals you don't want, and you can move verticals with the right key to hide any bald spots or gaps in the mesh. In order to move and manipulate big selections, you need to enable proportionate editing. After you've enabled proportionate editing, you can select the verticals and adjust the size of your brush with the scroll wheel on the mouse in order to move a big selection. Just so you know, the default brush doesn't fit the frame, so you need to scroll down for a hot minute until you actually see the size of your brush. And also, you can move the selection by using the arrow keys that are given to you. I do recommend the arrow keys because they're easier for beginners. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just filling out any bald spots and making the bottom half of the hair fit the top half in order to kind of combine the two meshes. You really need to play around with this and kind of get used to the controls and maybe Google some things, because I do realize how hard it is to actually explain everything in a short amount of time. Again, just take your time with this. Make sure you turn around your model to see if maybe some verticals are missing or texture, or maybe something is looking a bit off. Just move the verticals in order to kind of finesse everything and make it look like the two pieces belong together. A quick side note, also, what the hell is going on with the Tumblr community? Like, why is everyone fighting about makeup? Like, oh, what the hell? Can you please keep the Tumblr beauty guru drama out of this Catholic household, please? Anyways, back into the meshing. So yeah, we're just doing the same thing. I'm just kind of like molding everything so it looks in place. You can also open the scope tool and you can use grab in order to move sections of the hair, or you can use the polish tool in order to flatten the surface. So if this wasn't hard enough, I decided to make my life even harder by adding little strands of hair to my space buns. So I just went back to Sims 4 Studio and exported a mesh that I can use little strands of hair from. Then we repeat everything we just did all over again. So I select the sections of the hair that I want to use, which is just the little baby hairs on the side, and I delete everything else. Then I just copy and paste it onto the layer that I'm working on. Then after I paste the little baby hairs or whatever they are, I make sure that the layer they're on is selected, and then I go into edit mode and I just kind of move them around and rotate them with R and scale them with S, and then just make it work. And then, you guys guessed it, we open up yet another mesh and we select bits we need, such as the bangs. I'm gonna flash a picture of the reference so you guys remember, because it's been so long now that you probably forgot what the reference looks like. Anyways, yeah, we just copy and paste the things we need into the mesh we were working on. After playing with the hair for about an hour, I realized that I fucking hate it and I don't like how it's looking. So I decided to ask the girls from my Discord, and they gave me some decent advice on how I can improve the hair.
Also, please join the Discord, thank you.
After you're somewhat happy with the hair, it's time to edit the texture in UV map. You can find the texture settings on the right below all of the layers of the meshes. Make sure the layer you want to retexture is selected. Since we've exported every part of this hair from a different mesh, it will come with different textures. So make sure you untick all of the textures that it comes with, so all of the layers can have one single texture. So I like to do this in sections. So I start with the back of the hair and I deselect every single texture that it comes with, so it leaves me with a completely white canvas. Now that we have a surface with no texture, what we can do is we can use another texture that already comes with one of the other meshes, or we can upload a brand new texture. It's easier to use an already existing texture, so you don't need to create a texture on your own. So I'm using the texture from the base of the hair, and I'm trying to kind of finesse it in order for it to work. To see the texture, you need to just press the tick on it after you've selected it. After you've opened the texture on one side, then you need to go into edit mode, select everything, all the verticals with A, and then go onto the left side and just scroll until you find the same texture so you can see it on both sides. Okay, thank you. So this is a part where you see if you can kind of make the already existing texture work for you, or if you would need to make a custom one. So basically the shapes on the texture you're seeing represent verticals from the 3D mesh. So wherever you place them, that's where the 3D verticals actually get their texture from. Because the universe hates me, I couldn't make the texture work. So that meant I needed to make a new custom one, which meant that I had to do more work. So now I need to export the UV layout so I can see what sections of which textures I need to use, and then I open it up into Photoshop and I cut the individual bits of texture that I need, and then I combine it with other textures in order to make one texture that works. Man, it's really hard to explain, you guys. I don't know. And basically you can find pre-existing hair textures from other hairs that are already made in the game, and you can find them in Sims 4 Studio, and just click on the hair that you want to use the texture of and just export the texture and kind of make it work with the verticals, you know? So after I spent an entire hour creating this custom texture and cutting up different bits and bobs from other textures and making it into one, I was finally happy with it. So this is not something that's necessary. You probably, most likely, wouldn't need to do this. I do this because I'm a perfectionist and I want to get the best textures possible. So after I was done with my texture, I just open it up back into the textures panel in Blender. After I've loaded up the texture, I select the mesh I want to apply the texture to with A, and then I just kind of move the shapes so they fit the shape of the texture that I just made. By the way, guys, can we take a minute to appreciate the reference image? Because that girl literally just said coronavirus, but make it fashion. So after we're done with applying the texture, you can repeat it onto every single section, so the bangs and the buns and everything. And then you can merge the layers with Ctrl J and just save the file, and you're ready to go, thank God. And then just open up a random here in Sims 4 Studio that you can upload your mesh into. You can import the mesh you just made by just going on meshes and then import meshes, and make sure you import it onto every single LOD so that way it shows up in game as well as in CAS. Also, this is the perfect time to see if there's any texture mistakes. So I kind of ignore it for the first time because Sims 4 Studio doesn't always show the same as it will show in game. So it's good to load the file in game first. After opening up the game, I had a better view of the mesh I just made, and I realized there were some texture issues that I needed to fix, and also some adjustments in the mesh that I needed to make. So I made adjustments to the mesh, I made adjustments to the texture, and it was time to test the mesh yet again in game to see if it works. Guys, I think Jesus has something against me because the mesh didn't work again, and I had to make further adjustments, and this is just a shit show. Like, honestly, what the hell? So what I did, right, I opened up the texture, I removed all the necessary bits, and I also modeled the hair a little bit more. So I smoothed it out, I added a little bit more dimension to it, and I fixed the back. What the actual hell is going on? Literally, I don't know how this happened, but back to Blender we go. Then I don't know what the hell I changed, but I played with the texture again and with the model again, and somehow it worked out. Like, honestly, I don't know what I did, but I did it. So yeah, that's one hell of a tutorial, isn't it? Thank you so much for making it this far into the video. I know this may not be the most helpful tutorial, but I did try my best, you guys. And yeah, so stay safe, take care, and you can ask me some questions either on Discord or on my Tumblr. Goodbye.